Hello, my name is Xavier Bassnight, and I just want to say first, thank you for taking the time to look at this video. In this video, I'm pretty much going to be showing you how I created a real-time event announcement system using AWS, SNS, Lambda, and API Gateway. In front of you, you can see the website, and with this website, people are allowed to add events. And one of the ways they are able to add an event is to come here at the bottom, right here, to submit a new event. They could give it a title, give it a date, also just a little brief description. Once that's submitted, it will be added here at the bottom. With this website, you also have the ability to subscribe. And once you're subscribed and the person makes a new event, that announcement or that event will be sent to subscribers via email. And with that, it just keeps them up to date what was added, and it gives users the ability to plan for it and whatnot. So I'm just going to be giving you a quick little demonstration of how I put everything together. Like I said, thank you for taking the time, and let's get started. All right, let's first begin by going to our AWS S3 and just kind of give you an overview of what AWS S3 is. It's a service from AWS that lets you store files in the cloud. You can kind of think of it like a big online hard drive where you keep things like your website files, your images, documents, and have the ability to access it anywhere. As you can see in front of you, underneath general purpose buckets, I have 2 buckets listed here. For this particular project, I named it Event Announcement Bucket. And inside here, I have 3 objects. These are going to be our front end files to the website that you saw previously right here. In there I got a JSON file, .html, and .css. And if I come over here to properties, scroll here at the bottom, under the static website hosting, I have S3 static hosting enabled right here. And if you come over to index document, I have it specified to index.html. So everything pretty much loads properly when a user visits the page. All right, and if I go over here, and I go to permissions, I have block all public access to off. This gives pretty much anyone the ability to have access to the website and not have any special permissions up here. You can see that here in the public policy. I have allow, and then for the resources is our bucket right here. And this is pretty much how I was able to have my website here and have people visit that.
But before we create our Lambda function, we first have to set some permissions for Lambda to be able to work effectively. So one of the ways we're going to set up these permissions is going through Amazon service IAM. And if we come over here to roles, these are different roles that I have created. But first, we're going to come down over here to our Lambda subscribe role. And so with IAM, we're pretty much able to define permission policies. With this, you're able to manage access to AWS by setting policy and assigning them to IAM identities. This can include users, groups of users, or roles, or AWS resources. In AWS, a policy is an object that defines the permissions of identity or resource. As you see right here, we have our role right here, Lambda subscribe role, and I have 2 different policies set to this role. We have our AMS SNS full access, which grants the Lambda function permissions to interact with SNS. Then right here, the CloudWatch logs full access. This allows logging to CloudWatch. This could be used for debugging and monitoring. So like I said before, now that we have our roles, and within the roles we have defined what type of permissions are in these roles, now we're able to give Lambda the permission it needs to be able to run effectively and pretty much do what we need to do as far as with the functions that we're going to create on there. So let's go on over to Lambda and see how we're going to set that up. Okay, let's go on over to our Lambda dashboard. And as you can see right here, we have 2 functions that's already created for this project. And we're going to go over to our function called subscribe to SNS function. Okay, now that we have our function to our Lambda all loaded up, I see in front of you we have our function overview right here. This is pretty much a diagram showing how everything is going to flow. We have our API gateway, which I will later describe in this video, but pretty much how it's going to go, like we said before, users are going to submit an event down here. Once that event is submitted, the API gateway will receive that data and send that over to our Lambda function that I'm going to show you how I created here, publishes it, and then once that email is all created, it's going to send to our SNS, which will then send out that email to the subscribers. Okay, if we scroll down here to our configuration tab of our Lambda function, we have listed here our execution role. And on the role name, this is the role that we created in the IAM service and our previous steps. And this is going to give Lambda the permissions that it needs for the function. And so for this particular Lambda function, this is going to be pretty much have to create an email that we're going to send to users once they subscribe on our page. And so pretty much how this will go, now that we have our SNS, which will send the email, and we have our web page right here, which will give a place for a user to sign up, an email still has to be created that's going to be sent to our users. And so that's where we're going to come over to here. Okay, if we come down over to our code source, this is where we have our code editor open. At the moment, we have our Lambda function written in Python open right here. And this is going to give us the ability to connect to SNS. And one of the ways to do that is through our RNN. Remember before, when we created our SNS service, we created a topic, and when we created that topic, it created this special link right here for our topic event announcements. We're going to come over back to here to our Lambda function, and this is where it's going to make that connection. And so pretty much when a user adds their email over here to our subscribe, it's going to put that user underneath the event announcement topic in which they will be a subscriber to. And so now we then need to send an email to that new subscriber notifying them that hey, you subscribed and pretty much welcome. And we are able to do that through this message right here that we have in our Lambda function. So let's test and see if this actually works. Okay, we're going to go over here, we're going to click test. And okay, good. This is a response that we want. So pretty much what this is simulating is that when a user is over here at the web page and they over here to subscribe, they put their email address right here and they push OK, this is actually the message they're going to see in that text box right here when they select OK. And so now what's going to happen, it's going to go ahead and send an email to this email address right here. So let's go on over and see if that actually worked. Okay, let's go on over to our inbox of the email that we sent the notification to. And as you can see here, yes, we were able to get that notification sent. So let's go ahead and click that. Alright, inside the email you see that we have our subscription to the topic. This is our topic that we created inside of the SNS. And down here there's a link that we can click to confirm that subscription. So let's go ahead and click that, and there you go, subscription confirmed. Now let's go on over to SNS and see if that subscriber actually subscribed to that topic. So let's go over to SNS, go over here to topics, and there you go, you can see the user was subscribed to the topic. Alright, so now that we have that Lambda function created, now we have to create one. If you go back to our website, we have to create a Lambda function that will insert the new event once it's been created down here at the bottom. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to go over to Lambda. So I can just show you the one I have created. We're going to create a function called create event function. But before we do that, we have to create a role for that Lambda function for it to run correctly. So we're going to come over to IAM. We're going to come over here to roles. And you see right here, I have one already created right here, event creation Lambda. And here are the permission policies that I have for that. So let's head on over to Lambda, and let me show you how I created this function. Now that we have our Lambda function that subscribes users to the SNS topic using an email address, now we have to create a Lambda function to update the events.json file that's located in our S3 bucket. And pretty much the objective of that is once a user submits a new event, this Lambda function will then put that event into this event.json file, and now that event will now be on our website. So let's go over to our S3 bucket so I give you an example of what that looks like. So I'm going over here, events announcement bucket, go to our JSON file. We're going to have to download that, take a look. Alright, as you can see right here, here are the events that are on our website currently right now. And so like I said, once an event is created, that Lambda function is then going to add that new event down here at the bottom. So let's go on over to our test tab. And for our test event, we have one already created right here. And over here in our event JSON file, this is what we're going to use to test that Lambda function. And it's pretty much going to create the event of somebody creating a new event and adding it to the website. So once we run this test, let's hope to see if that was received and if that was added to our website. So let's go on over to our code tab. Scroll down here, and we're going to go ahead and click test deploy. As you can see here on our output. Okay, great. So looks like the event was created. So let's go on over to our website. Go ahead and refresh. And as you can see right here, the new event was added at the bottom. And just to show you, let's go back to our JSON file for our events. I'm going to download that. Go and open it. As you can see right here, the Lambda function was successful. Okay, so now that we know that the Lambda function updates our event.json file, but remember back over here to our Lambda function, we also have it to send a notification to subscribers via email. So let's see if we receive that email when the update to that event.json file was submitted. So let's go on over and check that. Alright, it looks like we were able to receive that new event announcement. So let's go ahead and click that. And as you can see here in our email, it shows you the new event that was added to the website. And here's just a little link if you want to stop receiving notifications, you go and select that. But we now know that the Lambda function works because we now know that it updates the event.json file and also sends email to subscribers with SNS. Alright, so now that we know our Lambda functions are created, now we have to finally create our REST API and API gateway. We need to set up a REST API to manage these requests for subscribing users and creating events. So let's go on over to our API gateway and get started. Okay, so we're over here at our API gateway, and as you can see I have one already created right here, so I'm going to go ahead and click that. And underneath resources, I have two resources already created. I have our create event and also have our subscribe. And for right now, we're going to focus on subscribe. We're going to come over here to post. And Amazon has this pretty cool little diagram of how things work. So pretty much what we're going to do is out of the 5 methods of the API gateway, we're going to use the post method execution. So which pretty much is going to happen, the user is going to come to our website, press subscribe, add their email. That post request is going to be sent to our API gateway, and then over here to our integration request, API gateway forwards the data to our Lambda function right here. The Lambda function processes that data. The function takes that email and subscribes it to the SNS topic. If we go over here to our integration response, Lambda sends back a success or error message to the API gateway. Then it forwards over to our method response. API gateway wraps the message and sends it back to the user's browser, letting the user know, hey, you successfully subscribed. Now that that's created, let's go over to our create event response. So I'm going to go over here to post, and for this diagram, pretty much give you a rundown how that's going to go as well. on our website for the submit a new event. The user's going to come over here and fill this information out right here and submit it. And so pretty much what will happen is it's pretty much going to use the same method in the API gateway. It's going to use the post method execution. So what's going to happen is once they fill that out, that post method execution is going to be sent to the API gateway. If you come over here to our integration request, the API gateway forwards that event data to the Lambda function. And once it's in here, the function publishes the event announcement to the SNS topic, which would then notify all the users. For the integration response, Lambda returns a success or error message to the API gateway. And you come over here to the method response. The API gateway sends the message back to the user. For example, the event created and notification sent. So now it's time to deploy the API. So like I said, I created these two resources right here, and once that was done, I just clicked deploy API. And so now our website is ready to go, and let's do our final test to make sure everything works. So let's go on over to our website right here, and let's first create a new event. So we're going to call it Summit 2025. Let's put it for July 4th. Let's give it a little description. This Alright, so let's go ahead and submit event, see if it adds it to the web page. Go ahead and click that. Alright, cool. So the event was submitted, and as you can see here, added at the bottom. And so let's go ahead and subscribe as well. Like I said, so now that this new event was created, now it's send an email notification to its subscribers. But since we're here, I'm going to test this as well. So let's put in an email address. I mean, I already added it before, but I'm just going to give you an example of what's supposed to happen. Go OK. The API post method will send it to the API gateway, and as you can see, I subscribed successfully. Okay, cool. So that worked as well. So let's head over to our email and see if we got those notifications. Alright, very good. Looks like we did receive those emails. Let's go ahead and click this one right here. Looks like we got that notification for the new event. And I received that email because this was an email that I previously used when I demonstrated the subscription button. So because I'm subscribed, that new event was sent to my email address. And with that final test too, we also signed up for another subscription. Looks like it assigned to the correct SNS topic. Let's click confirm. I'm already confirmed. Let's go back to our website. Alright, cool. So let's give it a little refresh. Alright, as you can see it right there. Okay, well that concludes our video for today. Just want to say first, thank you for those who stuck around to the very end. I really do appreciate your time. Again, my name is Xavier Basnight, and for this Homelab, we built a real-time event announcement system using AWS SNS, Lambda, and API Gateway. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.